Hi guys, we're going to be now running through the assessment requirements for your MAT and Reformer course with us. So what I'd love for you to do is grab your induction pack and find your assessment schedule, and we're going to be going through the documents that relate back to the individual assessments on that assessment schedule so that you know exactly what you need to do as part of your training. So the first thing you'll see is the summary of hours, number 1. There's 2 of those actually if you look at the assessment schedule a little closer. And that is just a 1-page snapshot of where you're up to with your work experience hours, your observation, your teaching, your self-mastery, just so that we can see where you're tracking and make sure that everything is going to be finished on time and give us a red flag earlier if there's any problems with that. So it's just a 1-page document that you'll see you need to fill in some totals that come from your log sheets. You don't actually need to submit your log sheets or parts of your log sheets for that assessment. We just want that one document with the cover sheet, which we'll talk about a little further in. So that's your summary of hours. Then next you'll see your written assignment, number 1. And there's actually a second written assignment further in that you'll see as well. The written assignment number 1 is quite a large one. It relates to the MAT work component of the course. And we want you to start that pretty much straight away. So once you've done your first contact time, you need to check out that written assignment and look at which questions you might be able to answer straight away. And then as your next contact comes up, chip away a little bit more at it so that it's a really stress-free way of completing your written assignment. Definitely don't leave it till the last minute because otherwise you will struggle to finish it before the due date. Written assignment number 2 you'll see is due further into your course, and that relates to the group reformer teaching component. It's a much smaller written assessment, but nevertheless make sure that you've had a look at it with enough time to feel really confident with finishing it before the due date. So those are your written assignments, and then you'll see you've got your final practical MAT work exam or assessments. The practical assessments are done via video submission. So what that means is you'll need to film yourself teaching the classes that are outlined inside your assessment document, which can be found in that induction pack as well. So with the final practical MAT work, there are 2 classes. There is an intermediate level MAT work class and a small apparatus MAT work class as well. And that one can be at a level of your choosing. For both of those, you need to have a minimum of 4 people that you're teaching to, or it won't meet the requirements for the assessment. So really, really important. Definitely aren't able to alter that requirement, unfortunately. So making sure that you've got that minimum of 4 people to teach to in those assessments. I mean, the reason why we have a video submission is actually so that you can give your very best performance on the day and not be so nervous that there is an assessor looking over your shoulder. So we just find that people are giving a much truer example of their teaching style with a video submission. And also because we are a registered training organisation and we need to submit evidence to our auditors of the student quality of work and also of the assessment outcomes that are being matched against that quality of work, that's why we are required to collect the video submissions from you. So you can use the studio space to film your assessments. You can book that just like I explained in the work experience induction video, so you can revisit that if you need more detail there. But also you're going to pop it onto a USB in an MOV or MP4 format so that our assessors aren't going to have any technical issues with it. You really don't need it to be a grand, large-scale production. We just need to be able to see both you and all of your clients clearly, and we also just need to be able to hear you clearly as well. So it's okay if the quality is not fantastic, but as long as we can see and hear you to get a real gist of how your teaching is, that's the most important thing. So that's the video submissions for the MAT work side of things. You'll see also that there is a final reformer practical assessment. The task sheet is already there in your induction pack for that as well. So you've got plenty of time to review that pack and know exactly what you're going to need to prepare for. That is going to be an intermediate level group reformer class. And again, you're going to have a minimum of 4 people that you're teaching to. And these people that are going to be in your assessments, we want them to be people that you have worked with right through your work experience hours. So these are bodies that you are familiar with and that you have really worked with to progress up to that point of intermediate level, or whatever level you're also going to choose for your small props as well. So that's your practical assessments, and then your final assessments are also your completed log sheets. I already talked about how to fill out your log sheets in your work experience video too. Then you've also got the observation tutorials, which are found in your pack. And what they are is they're a set of task sheets that you can use whilst you're doing your observation hours, just to give you some better reference of what to look for in the teaching hours. There isn't one tutorial per observation hour, so you're going to choose when you're going to use those, but they're just a really nice guide. Because they are an of the moment type of thing, where you're asked to look at a person doing an exercise and make notes perhaps, we don't need to mark that and give that back to you. So that one's going to be for viewing of completion only. And the same thing goes for your repertoire self-audit and self-directed learning tasks. Those two things go hand in hand. The repertoire self-audit is a table that shows all of the repertoire that you have learned to date. And there's some columns that say, I am comfortable teaching this exercise and I'm also comfortable doing this exercise in my own body, with a space for you to note down any exercises that you might feel like you need a refresher on. Coupled with that repertoire self-audit, there is also self-directed learning tasks, which is just a bunch of written questions in a very similar style to your written assignments. And that is going to be something that you just work on throughout your course and then submit at the end of stage 1 and at the end of stage 2, just for viewing of completion only as well. So I think that's actually all of the assessments. Now let's just briefly run through the submission protocol. So when you're handing in your assessments, you need to make sure that you put an assessment submission cover sheet completed on the front of every single assessment. There are blank copies of those available in your induction pack. And we just want to see the paper stapled in the corner, no portfolios, no plastic sleeves, no fancy binding. Because we have to store your assessment, that just goes to waste. So we just keep it simple, just the paper and a staple. Also, you're going to need to hand in your assessments in person at our training headquarters. So leave enough time for you to deliver your assessment to either a PFI staff member or a PTI staff member behind the desk, so that we can go through the proper process of delivering your assessment to the correct assessor and that there's no missing assessments there. So definitely handing it to a staff member rather than leaving it unattended anywhere. And if you're living regionally, we do accept postal submissions. Make sure you've got enough time though to get it to us on time by the due date. And if you need to sit your written exam at a regional centre, then absolutely that can be arranged. Again, just make sure you identify that with us with enough time to get organised with a justice of the peace who's going to be supervising that for you. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about the assessments, guys.